Hi, it's Deborah M. here, and I'm going to go over your backpack essential activities for step 1, befriending your nervous system. The first activity is your learning path tool, and that's how we explain this to our students. Are they on their learning path and are they heading toward their goals or not? And what are the different nervous system states? And I like to think of this path as a visual way to bring it all together for students. I put the tree in the middle of the path. That's the sympathetic response where you're either in fight or flight. And then if you're just at the very beginning of the path, that's dorsal vagal shutdown, where your backpack's just kind of empty and there's nothing really in it to help you get regulated and get on your learning path toward your goals. Whereas in sympathetic, the backpack's kind of a mess. Everything's scattered about, a little bit disorganized. It's mobilized, but disorganized energy. And then at the far end of the path is your ventral learner who's ready to go. The backpack's on and it's filled with regulating resources. And that's what this whole course is about and the book is about, is what are these regulating resources that students need in order to meet their goals and to be successful. The next tool is your observation tool. We'll be looking at students through the lens of polyvagal and determining what nervous system state they're in throughout the day. So this example shows you how we're following a student throughout the day, and in the morning, during circle time, they're kind of sad, they didn't join in, they seem like they're in dorsal vagal. And then during reading stations, they participated, they seemed motivated and back into ventral vagal. And then at recess, then again, they got disconnected from their friends. They stood there alone and they went into dorsal vagal. And at lunchtime, they found some friends and were talking and seemed to be in ventral vagal. Math time comes around and they've given up. They don't know how to do the math. They don't have any regulating resources. They don't know where to find them. So they're in dorsal vagal. And then during PE, they seemed to enjoy it. They engaged. They had a good time in ventral vagal. And then closing, they seemed happy at the end of the day. And then after school, when they went to the after school program, they were alone, they didn't have any friends, and they were back into dorsal vagal. The next activity is the Name My Autonomic Nervous System States activity. You and your students can decide what you want to name each of the states. I came up with Ready Rabbit, Restless Raccoon, and Tender Turtle for the TK through third grade learners or developmentally young learners. There's also examples. Some people in the polyvagal world have used their weather, different types of weather, whether it's sunny, stormy, or foggy. For the people version, I came up with Curious Explorer, Restless Rambler, and Dorsal Dweller. This activity is something that you can personalize your autonomic nervous system states. You can do it yourself, and you can ask your students what they want to name them as well, or you can just use the names that I've come up with. The next activity is the autonomic nervous system states, thoughts, and words activity. And in this one, we're looking at how our thoughts relate to each of the different states and what words we might use that apply to those states. So you can see that, like in ventral vagal, some of the thoughts might be I'm safe, I'm connected to others, I'm supported, I can see options, I'm able to handle daily challenges. Words might be confident, optimistic, grounded, proactive, curious. In the sympathetic fight, we might feel unsupported, like people are not our friends, the world's against us. We're feeling threatened, we're needing to stand our ground. Some words might be frustrated, mad, activated, worried, irritated. In sympathetic flight, we feel unsafe, we need to get away, we want to avoid danger, we can't take a risk, and we have a lot of excess energy. We're fearful, anxious, agitated, escape, or avoidance. Those might be words we would use to describe how we're feeling. In dorsal vagal, we may feel invisible, lonely, like nothing we do matters. The world is a scary place and we're feeling overwhelmed. Words we might use are sad, shut down, hopeless, foggy, listless. So you and your students can work through this and come up with your own thoughts for each state and the words that apply. The last activity is the observing events activity. I feel like a really good way to teach polyvagal and befriending the nervous system is through literature. when you're reading a story, whether it's a picture book for young children or it's a novel for older students, have them observe the events and the characters and put them together and say, when was that character safe in ventral vagal and felt safe and connected? When was that character in fight or flight? What happened that got that character into fight or flight? And then when were they in shutdown? And then you can ask them, what resources did they use to help shift their states? Sometimes it's hard to understand our own nervous systems, but when we're watching a movie or reading a book, or we're even talking about something in the news, we can look at the people in the events and we can say, oh, that's interesting. This was their reaction to that event. And how did they get back into regulation? So in the example, we have an event where a character is having dinner with a family and enjoying. So they're enjoying being together in ventral vagal. They feel safe and they feel connected. But then the smoke alarm goes off, and then there's smoke in the kitchen. So they kind of go into a sympathetic response of fight or flight. The character moves away from the danger, seeks safety with other siblings and with an older sibling, and then the parent removes the pan from the burner, and things kind of get back to normal, and the nervous system calms back down and we go back to dinner. And then another example would be at the dinner table, a sibling said something mean and the brother got sad and just left the table, shut down. And the sibling went to their brother and apologized with a hug. And then the brother returned to the table, back to ventral, back to connection, back to safety. So this is an activity that I think would really go far in every time you're working with students and you're reading a story. If you can start seeing those characters, the events, and their nervous system states, it's very interesting and it's fascinating. I read a lot of books every night. Every night I read different novels, and I'm always looking at the characters, looking at the nervous system states, and also saying, oh, what were their regulating resources? How did they return back to ventral vagal? Observing my ANS states activity. Now that students have had some practice observing other people's ANS states in their books and in their movies and just in events around them, they can start befriending their own nervous system and become active operators of their own nervous systems. So as you can see in this example, safe and connected, ready to learn. So the student said, I studied and I'm ready for the test. This lesson is interesting to me. I'm motivated to learn about new ideas. In fight or flight, the student may think, I'm stressed out about this lesson. I'm mad about the assignment topic. I'm avoiding doing my homework. In shutdown, they may write, I just can't get started on my homework, or I need help but no one is here for me, or I feel alone and overwhelmed. This is the objective of step 1, is to ultimately get to the place where students are befriending their nervous system and can notice and name their states.